Hello, Hannah. Good news. Wicked finally came out.
Yes, it did.
It's
And
finally here.
I saw it in 3D and it was 3D. Now that we're talking about it, I didn't notice their 3D that much. And that's either a sign that it was done really well or it just like made zero impact on the film. But otherwise, not to spoil the ending of our podcast, but it was great.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
quality. All right, let's wrap up now. Today we're joined with Queens of Oz themselves, some adepts. We have Tara and MK of Down the Yellow Brick Pod.
Woo!
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Hi.
Yeah,
Welcome.
yeah,
Thanks
Thanks
for
for
welcome.
having
having
us. We're
us.
pumped.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I know you've got bubbles to catch, brooms to ride. It's a
We
busy
do.
time. We're here to talk about Wicked, but in case you don't know what you clicked on, welcome back to Not My Fantasy, the show where we talk about fantasy films and the lore that inspired them. I'm Cullen.
And I'm Hannah. And we already introduced our guests.
Yeah. Uh, so we're talking about Wicked, brand new movie. We usually ask, have you seen it before? How many times has everyone seen it in this chat already?
Only once.
Only
Ooh,
once,
I
yeah.
think I think Tara has the record.
five.
Five. Oh my God, jealous,
Five.
Damn.
honestly.
Tonight will be my fourth. I'm MK here.
That I am jealous because this movie's just it's taken over my brain. My entire team at
Mm-hmm.
work, we're just
Yeah.
constantly talking about it. And I wanted to ask everyone before we get into this, do you feel like you're more of an Alphaba or a Glinda?
Mm.
Ooh.
Ooh, always a great
Yeah, it's a
question.
tough one.
You're literally wearing pink and green, MK.
I know. I don't know what to do.
You're right in between.
Identity
With the wizard and
crisis.
I braid, if you will.
I know. I'm giving you all of it. Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm just gonna go with my gut. I'm feeling Glinda energy right now. I'll say that
Okay.
for this day, especially as we get into the holidays. I feel like I want everything to be bright
Yes.
and shiny and twinkly and lights and
And
just like
Hallmark movies. Yes.
Hallmark movies and
Yes.
singing.
Very Glinda.
There's a brand new Lindsay Lohan Christmas film with
Oh
Kristen
yes.
Chenoweth. I'm just
Yeah.
like, this is my
Hot
dream. So
Frosty.
Hot
Yes.
Hot
Frosty's
Frosty.
here. There's a lot of
Yes.
Glinda energy. And I feel like capitalism is more linked with Glinda energy. I love Christmas, but there's a lot of capitalism involved.
Yep.
So that's a little alphabet of me to say though, but I'm leaning into all of it. So I'll
Nice.
say I'll say I'm feeling the Glinda vibes today.
Nice.
Okay.
I like that answer. And you could probably also catch a Broadway Glinda in a Hallmark movie. We have discovered a pipeline that is a real thing.
100%.
Oh
It
yeah.
happens a lot.
Yes.
I will say that I feel a really strong split, but I am embracing the Glinda of the holiday season like MK. But like as soon as January 20th hit, the green skin is on.
It's
Uh-huh.
on.
Yeah, it's
Love
on.
that.
It's on.
And or just like need to actually like channel more alphabet energy. I think a lot of us do, to be honest.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know. So hopefully she can be an inspiration for a lot of us to get more involved in the things that we think we can make differences in if we don't like what is happening in our country or wherever you might be. It doesn't have to be United States of America, wherever you may live.
Yeah. Cullen, what did you say I was? I was an Elphaba with Glinda
Glinda
Rising.
With the
Rising.
Glinda
Yeah.
I
Rising,
love that.
yes.
Yeah, that feels
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. And then you're the opposite.
I'm the opposite. I'm very much a Glinda, but I feel like I'm an Alphaba because if something's wrong, I like feel like I have to say something. Like one of the people that's like, sorry, it's gonna bother me if I don't speak up, or like that doesn't sit right with me.
That's
Respectable.
good.
Yeah,
That's
that's a good
good.
thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's where I channel her, but I feel like what I get Glinda is if see this movie encourages so much deep thought about good and evil, right? And so I think
Yes.
about like, well, if you ever a lot of people think they're good, but their impacts are bad. So how do you know you're good unless someone else is telling you you're good, unless the people around you think you're good, ergo you're popular. So it's like
Nailing
this
it.
this
Mhm.
like circle
Ergo.
that like you keep thinking and sometimes think about it too much, but
Oh, we
Never.
understand. I
Never
was like,
too
yeah.
I
much.
think we have broken this down to the upteenth, but also keep finding new things, like new chilly
Yes.
moments in our
Hmm.
skinsies to be like,
Yeah.
what? I never thought of it like that. And that's what's beautiful about this world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also have I couldn't get the Wicked Sipper because
I see something
I
happening
didn't,
there.
but I got
Is that
the
Sleeping
I
Beauty
got Sleeping
pretending to be
Beauty.
Glinda?
Yeah, she's
Honestly,
cosplaying.
you fooled me for a sec.
Mm-hmm.
She's
Me too.
cosplaying.
She's
I
cosplaying.
also can't handle. I recently saw on like some reel on the socials, a family going thinking because Glinda is in a pink dress, it's a princess film.
Mm.
And I was like, oh,
They
and like
got
being
into something.
and like being like this wasn't meant for my like 5-year-old child, but it's like,
Oh,
please, Lord.
There's been enough trailers out there for you to
yeah.
Well, I
get
guess
an
people
idea.
really don't like it's such
People do.
a I think you're either in one or two camps. Like you're
Yeah.
either really listening and tuned in or you're just not. And like
Right.
this made probably no sense to that family, which is wild.
Yeah. Which
Well,
it's pretty child friendly as a movie.
Yeah.
Yes. Unless
Maybe
you
not
hate witches.
five. Yeah, unless you
Yeah.
hate witches. Yeah.
Which was this vibe I was getting from this reel.
Oh. Oh, okay.
mm,
Yes.
Okay, so you saw a movie
Anti-witch.
called Wicked and you didn't like that there were witches. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe have
Title.
some deducing.
But
Yep.
they really wanted to see Sleeping Beauty. That's all to link back to your sippy cup.
Yeah, that's what they
Fascinating.
needed. So this property of Wicked, so I saw the musical. This was the first ever like professional production I saw, or like I should say like touring Broadway style production in high school on New Year's Eve at 2011 to 2012. And I
Yeah.
saw it right after I had put on like the musical that I wrote in high school with like the composer and the lead actress and my sibling and the girl I had a crush on and we saw it together and so it was like I was like, "Oh my gosh, my life peaked." Thankfully it did not peak then, but that's how I felt. So I've been waiting for this movie. I'm a fan of the book.
Oh, good.
Yes. So I loved
Yay.
listening to your episodes on the book on your podcast because Wicked as a book is something you can't just like process on your own.
100.
You
That's like
need
the
Yeah.
number one
community.
thing I would say. Do not attempt on own. Do not attempt. You're gonna get like all confusified.
Yeah, Confusified. And
Confusified.
there's a lot of content right now that's very much like the book is so crazy. And I'm like,
I can't handle it. I can't handle it. It makes me so mad. It's not
How
that
dare
crazy.
you disrespect Gregory?
yeah, Papa Greg. So a quick backstory of this movie. I feel like we've all heard all about it in a million ways, but kind of our classic backdrop. So this movie has been in production for basically 20 years, and it's based on the 1995 book Wicked, Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West. So 10 years before Chicken Little, the book Wicked was starting the Shrekification trend, the aesthetics of good and
Ooh.
evil. What is good? What is evil? Like we talked about this in our Descendants deep dive, that this book kind of set this all in
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah, 100. Good
I
work.
totally
Yes.
see that.
Yes.
Wicked to Shrek. I never
Wicked
thought
to
of that.
Shrek,
They're
that
both
green
Pipeline.
Yeah, the green
Also,
pipeline. To Brett
Glamora.
Summer.
I think of
Glam-
Glamora too from like the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah,
A little
yeah.
good, a
Yeah.
little bad.
Guardians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, and there's a scene in the book where Alphaba sings, and the song's implied to be Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and this inspired Stephen Schwartz, the man behind every Bible-based banger, to write this musical. So Stephen Schwartz is Godspell, Pippin, Prince of Egypt, Children of Eden, lyrics for movies like Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Enchanted. So you've all, even if you don't know Stephen Schwartz, you know Stephen
You
Schwartz.
know.
Mhm.
He produced Wicked with Mark Platt and Winnie Holzman, creating the 2003 bombshell musical, winning 3 Tony Awards, 7 Drama Desk Awards, Grammy, and it's as in 2016, it surpassed 1 billion in total Broadway revenue, joining Phantom of the Opera and Lion King as the only Broadway shows to do so. And it is the second highest grossing musical on Broadway, surpassing Phantom, and longest running Broadway show.
Hmm.
So quite a cultural moment. But this movie is directed by John Chu, Crazy Rich Asians, In the Heights, Gem and the Holograms,
Mhm.
uh, and written by Holzman and Dana Fox, produced by Universal and Mark Platt. The choreography is by Christopher Scott. Hannah,
Yes.
what franchise do you think he also choreographed?
I don't know.
Zombies.
Oh,
Oh my
Zombies is
gosh.
good.
I keep
Zombies
threatening
is
Hannah with
good.
that franchise.
I love zombies.
I don't know it.
Uh,
So he also choreographed In the Heights and the Teen Beach franchise.
Love Teen Beach.
Oh,
I had some friends that worked on this movie, and so that's why I knew it was in good hands because a friend of the pod was like, "This movie's good, everyone's great," and so I was like, "Okay, I don't have to worry." So I kind of came in, had expectations. Um, it feels like we always list the cast, and sometimes with a movie like this where everyone's obsessed with the cast, it's almost like feels redundant, but we'll do it anyway. Cynthia Erivo as Alphaba Throp, Ariana Grande as Galinda/Galinda, Jonathan Bailey as Fiero, Michelle Yeoh as Madame Morrible, Jeff Goldblum as the Wizard, Ethan Slater as Bach, Marissa Bode as Nessa Rose, Peter Dinklage as Dr. Dillamond, Bowen Yang as Fanny Epiphany. No, the tales of the questions all the time. Bronwyn James as Shen Shen, doing extremely well critically and commercially.
yes.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yes.
So we're gonna talk about this book, but kind of how we'll do it is we'll kind of go through the movie quickly and then stop and kind of discuss the divergence. They're not like this is an adaptation of the musical more than really the book at all.
Yes.
And so it's more to
True.
just be like, this is how the book informs the story, not like, wow, I can't believe they changed this.
Mm.
And I think the book gets a lot of hate, but I love it. I think the musical is a more satisfying narrative.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um,
For the masses, yes.
yes, for the masses,
More
for
Yes.
palatable. Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, and there is something sometimes I felt missing from the book at the end, but I still just really appreciate that book. And again, yeah, people talk about it like it's smut, and it's not really. No, I know people are like,
That's wild.
yeah, people are saying like Firo eats Elfie out, and I'm like, okay, maybe that does
Did
happen.
you-
I don't
Oh, I guess it
remember.
does happen. It does happen. It does
It
happen.
does.
But is that the takeaway? That's your
Yeah.
only
If that
takeaway?
is your takeaway, then
You need to assess yourself, honey.
yes, and
Yeah.
also like let Alphaba live. That is
Yeah.
a good time.
Can't
I'm
she?
sure for
Yeah.
Alphaba.
Yeah, she's
She's
going through a
living.
lot. Just let her have something
Let
nice.
her have a
deserves it.
moment. Like
Yeah.
let the girl live. Female empowerment. And I just think if that is your takeaway, we have lost the plot. Then this
We
book
have
was never for you.
lost.
Yeah.
It's an adult novel. It is not for kids. And
100%.
I will, because I work in a children's bookshop that has a whole Oz section. Oz is our like heartbeat of our bookstore, and we do have Wicked on our shelves. So I'm consistently declining a sale sometimes, not declining it, just making people more,
Mhm.
Aware.
informed. Yes.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, that's not for your 6-year-old.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I read it in high school and I was still kind of on the young side for it,
Same.
but I was like,
Same,
Over
same,
the
same.
head.
yeah. Yeah, a lot of the things that like are shocking did just like I didn't get. And then
No,
but I did
me neither.
I
Me
did
neither.
get like the good and evil discussion. So,
And I
you
was
were-
like, where is my application to Shiz? Like that is where I went.
yes, the
Yeah.
Hogwarts letter route.
Yes.
The Wicked book has 3 sequels, now a prequel. I have not read the other material, mainly just the book, the initial book. But let's jump into this movie. Wow, what an intro. Hannah, why don't you describe our intro?
Okay, so we start with basically where Wizard of Oz leaves off. Glinda is announcing that this little girl came into Oz and fucking murdered the Wicked Witch of the West. And everyone's so freaking happy. But also Glinda's like confused, conflicted. She's having some feelings. She's trying to bubble away after this big celebration. And they're like, wait, 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 we have a question for you. I thought you were friends with her. Tell us about that. And then she starts going into basically our big backstory of how the Wicked Witch basically became the Wicked Witch.
Yeah, they're like, why does wickedness happen? And she's like, well, daddy issues.
And I need 2 parts to tell you.
I need two
Yeah,
parts.
exactly.
I need
It's
2
gonna
parts.
take a while.
Yeah.
And they asked the question, are people born wicked? Do they have wickedness thrust upon them? Which I've been asking everyone
Good
at work
question.
all the time.
Do you have wickedness thrust upon you today?
Yeah. I'll be like, are people born wicked? And they call it. So we get this quick backstory. We see her dad's the governor. Her mom's having an affair. She's born green. She has Carrie powers, or
Yes.
Matilda powers.
Carrie.
Yeah.
Very Carrie, very Matilda, very Carrie.
And she has Dulcie Bear is this bear that's her nurse, and she's the one who really shows her kindness. And we also see baby Nessa, who
Oh, love
is
you,
so
baby
cute.
Nessa.
Icon.
No. And we see her talk. Alfie is very into the wizard. She's like, the wizard will grant your heart's desire, but we also see that they're getting bullied, and Elphaba uses her telekinesis. I thought mainly because Nessa was upset, is how I read that scene.
Yeah,
Like,
same.
like she was like, "Oh, they're upsetting my sister," but then the dad
Yeah.
is like,
The
"You
worst.
ruin everything."
The worst
Uh,
icon.
yeah, he's the worst. But she has support in the bear. So that's like the musical has such a quick little backstory for her. So in the book, her parents are a minister, a unionist, Minister Frex, and Melina, the granddaughter of the eminent Throp, who's
Yes.
like big munchkin. And they live in this small town. Melina is bored with her life. She loves to walk around
I love
drinking wine,
her.
titties out. Like
Titties
she's
out!
like, I'm
She's
alone
my
on this
dream.
farm. Yeah. Her husband is annoying, and he leaves her the night where she's supposed to give birth because he has to
Yes.
protest the clock of the time dragon, which Glinda references at the beginning of the movie.
There is.
The 13th hour of the time dragon clock. So in this, it's like it's a small world, like thing of wooden
Very small world.
dolls. Yeah, and it like tells animatronics, it basically like tell gossip and like expose people in the community. And when he's preaching against it, it makes fun of him and calls him a hypocrite, and then people try and beat him up. And so he's hidden away, and then they're gonna go try and kill his wife. And so some women help her, and she ends up giving birth to Elphaba in the clock.
You just
Who-
crushed that. That is a hard
Yeah,
intro.
good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank
That's
you.
like 50 pages.
Yeah.
God.
And the Elfie has like sharp teeth. She's green, potentially
her.
intersex. Like she's
Yeah.
just but she's facing rejection right away. And there's a religion in this. There's unionism, which is their Christianity equivalent, worship of the unnamed God. There's Lurlinism or paganism, which is the worship of the fairy queen
That's
goddess
me.
Lurline.
Sign
Yeah.
me up. I'm going to mass tomorrow. Yes.
And that's associated with royalism because there's like the Ozmas who reincarnate as the queens. The Ozmas have been overthrown by the wizard or are kind of being overthrown by the wizard at this time. There's the pleasure faith, which is all about partying. Central worship or central figure is the Cumbric witch. And then there's TikTokism, which is, I call it the CW of religions. It's just like secrets and overindulgence, very Gossip Girl.
Conspiracy
CW.
theory land.
Yeah. Yeah, Gossip Girl with robot people. And so that's what's going on in Oz. they have a complicated relationship with Elphaba, who's kind of a weird child. And while this is happening, they enter into like a throuple with Turtleheart, who's like a quadling from the south of Oz, and he's a glass blower. But he's good at blowing other things too,
Yeah,
and
apparently.
yeah, real
That was
good.
good. That was good.
And so they basically become a throuple, and he gets sidetracked on his quest to protest for quadling rights because the people are being exploited. There's also the nanny, who's like a recurring character.
Woo!
We love her.
Big fan.
Big fan.
Yeah,
VIP.
she's a girl boss.
Yeah.
Uh, and she learns that Milena had an affair with this wanderer who gave her this green bottle. And she consults an old witch named Yackle, who gives her potions to give to Milena during the conception of her next child. Uh, there's so much going on. Elfie's first word is horrors.
Horrors, horrors.
And there's a long drought in Munchkin Land. And at one point, Turtleheart is killed in a ritualistic sacrifice to stop the drought. Nessa is born with no arms. So rather than
Big
being a
change.
wheelchair user, she has no
Different.
arms. And is seen as maybe Turtleheart's kid. And the family moves to Quadling Country to be missionaries, and they see poverty and devastation. They also have a son named Shell, and Melina dies. And water does hurt Alphaba, so she doesn't like to cry, and she doesn't like the idea of a soul.
She literally can't cry because it pains her, which that is not the case of the Wicked movie
No.
or the press tour.
No, definitely not the press tour.
Lots of waterworks going on.
You know, everyone's surprised like they haven't seen a theater kid before.
Right. What are you talking about? Like this is normal to me.
They're traumatized, and I'm like, or they just filmed a really long movie that was like a
That
really
was a big part of their
emotional
life.
experience, you know,
Yeah.
like that's like Lord of the Rings basically.
Mhm.
So back speaking of the movie, we're back at the movie. We've covered all of Elphaba's backstory.
Wow.
Thank you. It took a long time to figure out those notes.
That was really well done.
That was
I am
a
really
good
grateful
bullet
for
point.
you on that.
Thank you for the refresh.
Yeah.
But we're back in Munchkin Land, and this one girl is like, I don't know, Glinda, I heard you're her friend. Or is Shen Shen just running her mouth on TikTok Live? On Talking of the Time Running Live.
100.
She's like, I heard it. And Glinda's like, she's like, what? I love that in the bubble. And she's like, what?
Yeah, that's a good moment.
But it turns out she's like, okay, yeah, we were friends, which is a change from the musical.
Yes, the language is a little different.
Yeah, because she's like, oh, it depends what you mean by friend. And this she's like, oh,
Yep.
we are friends. Let me have my romantic flashback and then tell
Yeah.
you. Hannah, we're at Shiz. What's up?
All right, so Glinda arrives Legally Blonde style. That's all I could think of. She's got all of her gear. She arrives and her parents are doting on her. And also around the same time, Elphaba's coming, but she's not attending. Nessa is coming, and the father is there, and he's still a piece of work. Yet another bad dad added to our roster on
We have
this
so many
podcast.
bad dads on this
Bad
podcast.
dads.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's
And
he's
so,
rough.
yeah. And so basically, like, they kind of have this little meeting where it's very tense because everyone like freaks out about Ethelba being green. She has that confrontation to everyone. She's like, no, this isn't what happened. No, this isn't what happened. You know, I didn't eat grass as a kid.
Yeah, no, I'm not seasick.
Yeah. And so basically, like, that's her introduction to like the world of the university.
And Glinda's like, oh, well, I'm going to study sorcery.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make you not green. I'm going to fix your problem.
That's a good addition. That's one of my favorite additions to the film
Yeah.
is that
Yeah, I love it.
interaction. Yeah.
Because Alphaba's like, oh, so you're going to help me with skills you don't have just so you seem good. So she immediately has, because someone said the only reason Glinda doesn't like her is because she's green. And I'm like, I think she doesn't like her for many reasons, but because she clocks her right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She dragged her in front of everybody.
Yes. She
Yeah.
read.
Yeah.
But then basically they go into the big announcement of like, we have the renowned sorceress professor here this year, and Glinda's super excited. This is where she meets Bo and Yang.
Woo!
They become like
Yeah.
instant friends. What
We have
else?
theories that they were friends before. They feel like
Yeah.
summer camp
Oh.
besties. Like they
Mhm.
definitely,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
They go way back.
I think there may have been a cutscene too that gave us a little bit of a taste of their awareness of each other beforehand. I think that was said by Bowen in an interview of some kind.
Yeah, because there's a point where I'm like, wait, are they trying to imply they're like sophomores? Because it seems like they know people already. Because Bowen has that line where he's like, I don't see color to to Glinda when they're just like talking. We also get her telling Morrible, my essay, Magic Wands, do they have a point?
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Fantastic.
yeah.
And this professor like has absolutely no desire to talk to Glinda. She's very much like, no. But then something happens with Nessa. Oh, the dean of the school basically tries to
Yeah.
like, okay, like Nessa, you're the governor's daughter. Like, I'm taking really good care of you. I'm gonna personally escort you to your room. And she like grabs Nessa's wheelchair, which is a huge no-no. And she's like, I
Because
can do it on my
Nessa's whole
own.
thing is like, I want my new life. Like, I want a
Mhm.
fresh start.
Don't
Yes.
touch me, leave
Independence.
me alone. Yes.
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 Always
Leave
leave
her alone.
forever.
Always, yes.
And so like when this is happening to Nessa, she's trying to fight back, but like obviously she can't. She's in an unsafe safe situation. She can't like get the dean to stop. And Elphaba does her Matilda powers, not necessarily on purpose, kind of seems like an outburst. And Michelle Yeoh is watching and she sees this. And like
Yeah.
there's this whole commotion. Michelle Yeoh's, oh, that was me. Haha. Big prank. Just wanted to test you. And then she literally goes up to Elphaba and is like, hey, I see you. You're now joining my class. You are my only student.
Yeah. Belinda's like, oh, is there like, she's trying to head over. It's like, oh, great. You volunteered to be her roommate. How good of you. And she's like,
Uh-huh.
oh, wait. And this is, oh my God, they were
The
roommates.
gasp.
The gas
The
was so
gasp is
good.
good.
Yeah.
So good.
That is a good addition too, because in the musical, it's not until later that we really learn that Morrible has other ulterior motives.
Yeah.
And in this film, it's right away we get to see more of Michelle's performance of like, oh, okay, she's smarter than we're giving her credit
Yeah.
for.
I
Or
think
there's
because
something going on.
the movie's longer, so you need more of like a antagonist threat, even if Morrible is still like you're unclear. You have to know something's going on. So you have to have
Something bad.
Yes.
happening in
Yes.
Oz. Yeah.
Happening in us. I also really appreciate the like I like the breakup of Coddle and Morrible taking on the two
Yeah.
different faces of the
hmm
musical theater Morrible that we could see 8 times a week on Broadway, just because that really it doesn't allow Elphaba to see any sneaky, suspicious things. Like Morrible really is just revered. Like we just
Yeah.
get to see that. As opposed to Miss Coddle is there's questionmarks.com about how she handles things from jump with her pushing Nessa's wheelchair and not listening at all to Nessa. So there's already a hesitation when it comes to Miss Coddle, but not with Morrible. There's like an implicit trust that Elphaba's allowed to
Yeah.
put into her.
I also love in the outburst scene, you see the damage of to the
Mhm.
university and you see all the images of animals.
So
And
Yes.
good.
then since then I noticed like throughout the rest of like this is all practical sets, which I love, like just real places, and there's all these animals drawn or like carved into the walls, the furniture, everything, just to
Yes.
imply that like this has been an institution of like interspecies learning for generations
And
until now.
And it's being
animals
covered up.
animals are the educators or were more past tense, I guess, the educators of Oz. That was what a lot of animal capital A animals did. And yeah, that's just I think it's so well. And they don't even comment on that moment when
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
portrait's revealed, which I think is so smart.
Yeah, this movie doesn't spoon feed you in a way a lot of origin story movies do,
Thank you
where
for
they're
that.
like
Mhm.
hmm
this, ooh, look. It's just like, yeah, it just kind of sets it up. Like even the setup of like the hat is much more about like the what the hat means emotionally in this story than just like, oh look, it's the hat you know from the movie. Uh
Right.
Mhm.
Next big number, Wizard and I.
Woo!
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Michelle Yeoh's like, you know what? Alphabet, you're gonna be so amazing. You're gonna meet the wizard. Like that's your next thing. And so she's like, okay, I'm gonna work alongside the wizard and we're gonna fix everything in Oz and it's gonna be awesome. And then she goes to her dorm and everything
Yeah.
is ruined.
Everything's ruined. Glinda is scared of her, but is also like, oh look, I gave you like a hand towel. Now put me in your seminar. 'Cause she's
Mhm.
It's great.
it's great.
It's great.
It's what roommates do for each other. We get, so I mean, Wizard and I, beautiful ballad, and what is this feeling? Iconic choreo.
Mm,
They just
TikTok
really
trending.
TikTok trending. I love all the
Yes.
memes.
And it's a great montage of like seeing like them fighting over the room space and then like Elphaba finally like setting up her space. And then you see like the jabs back and forth, how like Elphaba's getting into her routine, Glinda's in her routine. They're very separate, but like there's times where they're forced together and like Glinda obviously being popular and everyone hates Elphaba. So like you just see all this tension building up over these series of montage scenes.
And I feel time passing, which I like. I
Yes.
I, I don't feel because Wizard of Oz MGM, that feels like one day, one
Yeah.
very intense day. That is
Yeah.
that is a
It's a
very
lot.
intense day. Because if you think about
Yeah.
it, like is she at the witch's castle the same night she was in Munchkinland in the morning?
I think so. That's how I
Yeah.
read
Seems
it.
like it.
Like that is insane.
Yeah.
She went
But
through a
this
lot.
feels
Insane.
like it's at least,
There's
I
time
don't know,
passing.
at least a
Yes.
month, I would say.
Yeah,
Like
it
it
feels
feels
like
like they get established.
orientation time. Like they're like getting into
Mhm.
their routine, like you said. I think that's a nice thing to point out that there is time flow.
Yes.
Yeah. Very relatable to like roommate experiences in college, you
Yeah, I had
know.
a roommate in Astoria who I really felt this with.
Uh-huh.
You know, Tara and I were
And you were singing the song every day.
Every day.
Mhm. Yeah, I would take all of my stuff and dump it on her bed.
Nice.
You
Yeah.
would.
Every
It was
day.
crazy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would put holes in her windows. It was really fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
But there was a
Classic
strange
stuff.
exhilaration, so
Yeah.
we kept
Yeah.
it going.
Yeah, there was this
Well, you were both singing the song every day.
yeah,
Yeah,
every
every
day.
It was, yeah, our faces were flushing.
Yeah. There's this erotic rage loathing.
It really
Yeah.
is. It really is.
It is. It is. It's true.
Meanwhile, we get Dr. Dillamond. He's a goat. He is the goat, and he's a goat. And he's teaching about how animals are oppressed. And Galinda can't get over that he's calling her Glinda. And she cannot let the class keep moving. And Alphaba is so annoyed. And I'm like, that's where I'm in Alphaba. That's where I'm like, Glinda, oh my God. Like
Chill.
I'm trying to focus on school. And it's like, oh, but you don't get my name right. And she's like, why can't you teach history and stop harping on the past?
Barf.
Iconic line.
But
Iconic.
iconic. Yeah.
It is. And we get the Shen Shen and Epiphany Fanny that, oh my God, raise your hand.
I love
Great.
I'm obsessed. Yeah. It's the dynamic is so good.
But then we get the hate speech. We see when he flips the board, it's written animals should be seen and not heard. And he's upset, obviously. It's very traumatic. And Alphaba helps him and she notices he likes poppies. And he's like, oh, be with your friends. And she's like, I don't have any friends. And he's like, well, you got a friend in me. Play the song.
Toy Story, here we
Toy
go.
Story, and
Yeah.
then we get a Randy Newman song in the middle, just to shake things up.
I'm here for it.
But Morble is exploiting her anger. She's trying to get her to levitate Dua Lipa. Like
Mhm.
Dua Lipa's levitating is a big theme in this movie, and they're trying to get her to levitate a coin. And so she's like, "Oh, you're really." She notices when she's emotional.
Mhm.
She's like, "Okay, your powers are Elsa, like emotion based."
Yeah.
Okay, like this must make you feel upset. And it's, ooh, that made me so mad just watching her like
Mhm.
exploit the emotions. But Alphaba follows Dillamond to his animal meeting where we get the number something bad, where this has changed from the stage play where it is just like them in school talking. And this we see other animals. We get the joke, oh, a dear friend of mine. Oh, a deer?
Yeah.
No, they were a cow. Uh, but they're talking about how animals are being silenced. Like, are they silent? Or are they being silenced? And they're leaving Oz. And so Elphaba is like, we have to tell the wizard, we have to do something. Um, and I just
And the
want to talk
other
about,
animals, they leave. Like they
yeah.
don't want to be around Elphaba because clearly it's like illegal that they're meeting or something. Like they could get in
They don't
trouble.
know who she is. Yeah. They
They
Yeah.
don't
don't
know if
know
they
who to
could trust her.
trust. Yeah.
I love the map that we see for like a brief second in
Mm.
that scene
Mm,
because there is a little like tunnel out of Oz that is on that map that I think is so important for Alphaba's journey that we know coming up
Mhm.
in future in the next part, but also like where are these animals going if it's not
yeah,
safe for them in Oz?
Yeah.
Gives you like a little hint.
I just want to comment on the CGI because top
very
tier,
good.
this is Chronicles of Narnia level. Like I would say early 2000s movies have like the best CGI creatures. And this is on that level where it doesn't take you out, where you're like, yeah, that's like a goat guy.
Hmm.
I'm with you for this scene. I think the first scene, the bear and the fox were a little abrasive for me just to get
Yeah.
into. But I think that's also just because I had to get into the world of, oh, right.
I think
Right.
that's what
Right.
it is
It's
like, again, we're so used to in the musical version that's not that, it's, we know it's an actor, we know it's a person, so it takes a second to be like,
takes a
okay,
second.
CGI is a part of this, like it's all
Yeah.
good. But I
But the
agree, by
money went to
something
Dillamond.
bad.
Yeah, the money went to
Yes.
Dillamond. Like it went
Yes.
to Chisteri and Dillamond got
Which
the
he,
real
yeah,
treatment.
they look amazing.
Yeah.
And something bad, by that time you're in it, you've
Mm.
committed,
Yeah, we're
you're on
in.
board.
Yeah. So, oh, on her way home, she meets Fiero, who's instantly flirting. He's instantly like, oh, yeah, I ate
Yeah.
grass, whatever.
He's like,
We
what,
all
you
do it.
didn't?
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah,
Uh,
because she gets immediately defensive and he's just like, all right, calm down. Like, it's just me and my horse hanging out.
Who will not be CGI'd in this moment. We do not
Love
want
the
to do
horse.
that to the horse.
Yeah,
We'll just give
no.
him a voice in the dark.
Yep.
Yeah.
Voiceover.
Works for me.
Now it's time for our next book check-in. In the book, when we go to Shiz, we start with Galinda, similar to the musical. She's has a much more complicated name. She's from Frothica of the Arduino clan on her mother's side, and she meets Dillamond on the train, and he's talking about animals needing passes now to travel, and how hard his aunts work to get him to school, and how that's all going away. And Glinda's kind of like, I don't really like to think about stuff like this. Like. This is,
Ugh, stop. Stop
yeah,
talking.
it's
Yeah.
harshing my vibe. And he's calling her Glinda due to Glinda kind of being a more common version of the name. It's like a unionist saint, and Galinda is like a more local variant. And she is by herself because her Amma Clutch, stepped on a rusted nail and had to get medical attention.
Oof.
So Galinda has no chaperone, and despite her being rude to Dillamond, he's the one that gets her carriage and stuff to Shiz because she doesn't know what's going on. And she talks a lot about architecture. She's real into architecture, and which I love that detail. And there are lots of animals about Shiz. And later on, they'll talk about how like, oh, we noticed there are no animals about. So they like kind of track that change. And Glinda is always thinking of fun, social, nice things to say. Like in the movie, they have her say to Bach, who she meets, she's like, "Oh, strangers are just people I haven't met."
Oh yeah.
One of my favorite
She met
lines.
Bach.
So funny.
Yeah, and so she was gonna have to go to the dorms because she didn't have Amma to vouch for her. But then, so she makes up a lie that she's like, well, my Amma can't keep track of all the girls in the dorms because she has Bell syndrome, is what I call it, where she will talk to inanimate objects like they
Mm.
are real people and ignore real people. So she's like, she can't do that, so she can maybe handle me and one other girl. And Morable's like, okay, here's Elphaba. She's green, and I kind of hate her. Enjoy. And Morrible, no one likes her. She's like
Yeah.
fishy. They call her horrible Morrible. Glinda and Elphaba, like, they're just kind of distant. Galinda doesn't want anyone to know that she has an annoying roommate. But sometimes they talk about good and evil, and Elphaba is like, Galinda is smart deep down. Like, she's trying to hide it, but she's smart. But she would rather hang with her rich girl besties, Shen Shen, Epiphany, Fanny, And then Milla, a munchkin who's sometimes around, sometimes not. Also, in this world, the boys and girls go to separate schools, and the girls have more animal teachers because their like education is like lower quality.
Second
Um,
class, yeah.
second class, and they don't have access to the same like libraries and
Nope.
spaces. But there's
Thanks, Wizard.
yeah,
Thanks so much.
we love fascism. And they have a co-ed poetry reading where Morrible says in the poem, animals should be seen and not heard. And she purposefully makes it so it doesn't sound like she's saying animals or animals. And it's like, it's part of the irony of the poem. And Alphaba's like, well, what's irony? Tell it to me. And she's like, you wouldn't get it, you know?
Isn't
Uh,
it ironic?
yeah. Alanis doesn't know either. And so Morrible's like, if Alanis doesn't know, how am I supposed to know? Uh, and so Elfie is like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Like, Galinda, what do you think of this? And Galinda's like, I just want the boys to notice me and not like be seen talking to you. But the one who does notice her is Bach. But he also notices her because of Elphaba. He's the one that calls her Elfie because they grew up together in Munchkin Playgroup.
Mm.
And he is smitten with Galinda. And so Bach in the book is like a main POV character. He was my favorite character when I read the book as a high schooler.
Yay.
I think I have a slightly different view of him as an adult, but yeah, I still like him in a way. I mean, even though we meet, we also see him like, what's it, peeping Tomming when he's like trying to find Glinda, and you're like, yikes.
Totally.
Yeah,
He's just a boy.
I'm just a
Dude.
Just a
boy.
boy with a crush,
yeah, just a-
doing not right things.
And so he rekindles a friendship with Elphaba after he falls in the garden while peeping Tomming, and he tries to arrange a meeting with Galinda, and Galinda's like, "You're poor and you're small." We also meet some other people like Bach's rich fuck boyfriend Averick, and his friends at his summer library job, Crope and Tibbet, who are like his gay besties. Uh, Alphaba is doing helping Dilmund with his summer research. It's pro animal, but she can't access the Three Queens library. So Bach, Crope, and Tibbet help her, and they do all this research together. So we get a lot of them talking about like creation stories and mythology and science. But Alphaba gets a letter from Galinda inviting her to the lake house. And it because Galinda invites her, and Bach's like, "Well, you have to go because I helped you. I have this crush." And they go. Averick is like, Elphaba, are you part elf? And she's like, I hate you. They're there with Morble's robots by Grammatic. But it all turns out that this was a prank by Epiphany. I call her Epiphany because I think it's the dumbest version of her name and she's annoying. But she puts it to embarrass Galinda and then like invite Elphaba, and then Galinda's mad that Elphaba shows up, and then Elphaba's mortified. But she refuses to leave, which she's like, okay, well, you invited me, even if it was a joke. I'm staying, which respect. And Galinda cools down and is kind of like, that sucks. I don't really like them that much. And Bach and Galinda kiss. She's like,
Hmm.
you're a little charming, you're a little sweet, but you're so little. And she took him in little by little as they kiss. So again, Bach has a very different role in the story. But they all leave to go back to Shiz early. Okay, so that's quick book summary of their dynamic. Time to dance through life.
Yes.
Uh, Galinda hears that Fiyero is arriving, and she's like, "Okay, I'm setting up a meet cute. I'm
I'm a
gonna give
tour
a tour.
guide."
I'm a tour guide." Me and Hannah were both college tour guides, you
Yeah.
know?
I was
This is-
too.
Yep, this is
Yeah, I'm like, I bet there was a real person whose job it was to give that tour that's like, hey,
uh-huh. Honestly, I would have been like, "Oh, she's got that. Cool. I'm gonna go."
I'm gonna go. Do I still get
Take
paid?
it from here.
Yeah. Do I still get paid? Yeah.
I love when she's like, we're in the place with all the books.
Yes.
It's
Yep.
just not
The book
no
place.
library. And he's like, we need to go out of town. We need to go to the Osdis ballroom. He's singing dancing through life. Like, who cares about books? Who cares about learning? I care about flirting with everyone, even Bach.
Yeah.
Bach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of other people in
Lots
that
of flirting.
library. Even the
The
librarian.
librarian.
Uh-huh. She
Yes.
gets a little taste. Yeah, and Elphaba, well, her and Nessa are kind of hanging out at the library, which I think is like, I think because Nessa was super upset with Elphaba at first, but we never really in the movie get like them having to reconnect, which I thought was kind of, it was a little confusing, but like Nessa's like, oh, this is funny, and Elphaba's like, I'm trying to study, like I need to get out of here.
I think that's how they exist a lot. Like I even from their opening shot as children, Nessa being present, Elphaba being present, Elphaba reading to Nessa, I think they like sit and read together or just sit in
Hmm.
silence a lot together.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
could see that.
Yeah, that's very sibling dynamic of just
Yeah.
like we don't always get along, but we just know how to be in the same space.
Yes, correct.
100%.
Uh, so Galinda is she obviously wants to be with Fiyero because who wouldn't, he's his moves, his that circular library thing of
So
books.
cool.
It's the best.
Yeah, that's gonna be such a great Lego set.
Can you imagine?
And Galinda deflects Box attentions by being like, "Oh, you should ask Nessa out." And Fiora's like, "You're good," and Glinda's like, "I know what you're talking about. I love helping others." And this is where I feel like Ari's Glinda or Galinda is a little. I like it. She's a little more aware of
Hmm.
how manipulative she is. Like, not necessarily, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I think people
Yeah,
have
yeah,
been
yeah.
have this kind of like, oh, Glinda's the villain. I'm like, well, the whole point is deconstructing the concept of a villain. Like that's what this
Hmm.
whole
Right.
franchise is. But she's just like she knows the game that she's playing. And
Yeah.
even if she doesn't necessarily think it's bad, she knows that, okay, I'm playing it with people, but I'm
To me,
helping
Glinda
others.
is like the definition of a networker. Like
Mm.
Yes.
I know how to get what I want. I know how to at least put
Yeah.
myself out there, not just in this instance, but with earlier on you mentioned like Elphaba, can you put in a good word for, with me
Yeah.
for with Morable? Like she knows how to play the game as you said.
She's playing chess. Like she knows how to
Yeah.
do that. And I do think that I get from Ariana's Glinda, I don't think she is being malicious in any of this. I really
Yeah.
think she thinks she's helping.
Yeah.
And like that she has a special touch with
Mm.
matchmaking and all of that. I really feel that. I don't think she's doing this to make their lives miserable. She's
Yeah.
doing it because it serves her life better. But
Hmm.
also she wants people to come back to her and be like, "Thank you, Glinda." She loves that. That's how
Yeah.
she, I think, fuels herself up.
It's very Emma in that way, very like she's young and privileged. Like
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
it's easy to forget that they're like 18 when this is all going, and you think back to being like 18 and how
And
like
she's
dumb and
never,
confused.
yeah, she's never experienced anything other than probably her very privileged lifestyle, where like an expensive camp where she meets Fanny and Shen Shen in the
Hmm.
woods, like is normal. Like
Yeah.
anytime I talk to my friends who went to like camps every single summer of their lives that were like thousands of dollars, I'm always like, never would have been my reality. Like that,
No.
No.
that, no, like, but they think that's what everyone else does. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, 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 that's no.
Yeah.
Nope. I know.
Not the norm.
Yeah, not the norm.
Yeah, there especially living in Los Angeles, there's so many conversations where you're like, "Oh, okay, yes, different worlds." And especially
Oh
just
yeah.
meeting different people from different parts of Los Angeles, they will have grown up in an entirely different universe.
Especially
Totally.
entertainment, like
Yes.
especially
Yep.
now, the entertainment industry, the new generation coming in, like most people are saying, "Oh yeah, my mom is Julia Roberts." Like it's like things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Like, oh God, okay, so that's
Cool,
the
cool,
world
cool.
too now with the like
Hmm.
legacy children
Yeah.
stepping in.
So Nessa is like, Elphaba, don't speak bad on my girl Galinda. She
She
helped
loves her.
me. Yeah,
Big
she
fan.
big fan. And so Elphaba's like, okay. But meanwhile, Fanny and Shen Shen are like, you need to get Elphaba to wear this ugly hat that your granny gave you. It's so gross. You gotta get her to wear this. And this is where I like related to Galinda, unfortunately, because she's like, oh no. And then they were like, oh, but you got
Could
to. And I'm like,
I?
that
Could
was
I?
that was me at 18 just being like, oh, well, if everyone thinks it's funny and like you're like it's much easier to get led down. You're like, okay.
Yeah,
She's
I
like,
think for me, this is the first time that I feel like Glinda is doing something that she knows is bad.
yes.
And it's like she's kind of at a mini crossroads, but for her, it's a big crossroads. And she's doing it for peer pressure reasons, basically, not because she thinks it's going to benefit her life, like we kind of talked about. So that's, I think, it's a really interesting moment because Elphaba comes in and she's like, "Oh my God, you should come with us. Like, you're going to come with us." And she's like, "Well, I don't know what to wear." And she says, "I have this hat." And Elphaba's like, "All right, like if you say it's
Yeah.
cute, it has to be because,
Yeah, yeah.
you're the style icon."
And
Um,
Glinda clocks the little stack of sorcery books and is so
Hmm.
like that just like gives her that charge of like I'm going to do something to get at her
yep.
Yeah.
because that's what
Jealousy.
I want. That's what I want so desperately. And I do think like this is a different situation for Glinda. She hasn't been put in yet. I still don't think she thinks about consequences. She
Hmm.
doesn't think about
Yeah,
This
what's going
all the
to
way through.
unravel. No, but
because
none of this.
if
She's such
she's
a tornado.
thinking, if she is such like a
A
networker,
tornado.
Yeah.
if she's such a networker, she, thinks she knows how to get what she wants from people, how to make friends and stuff. But because she has not cracked Elphaba, she's kind of like chaotic, like a tornado, like she doesn't know what to do. And so she's reacting in uh negative ways because she's like, well, I don't know how
Impulsive.
to, yes, impulsive, that's a better word. That she's like, well, I don't know how to get what I want from her. So I'm just going to get back at her because she has what I want, kind of thing. Then they
Yeah.
all take the little ferry, what's it called?
The
It's a
Venice boats.
the Venice
Yeah,
boats.
there's a
I
word.
love those boats.
That
I
scene
can't
was
think of it.
really cute because you see Nessa and Bach having fun together, and I think in a way that they don't really as much in the musical.
Mm,
They like
Uh,
each other. Like I truly
Yeah.
believe Bach really likes Nessa, just not like a sister, like not
yeah,
in the
yeah,
way.
Yeah.
or just not even as much as he likes Glinda.
yeah.
You
Right. Or
know?
it's like, yeah, like I think I think that's even better. I think he's like, you know what, if I have to marry Nessa, okay. Like maybe that
Right.
thought is coming through.
Yeah, because we get like they're in the dance in the Oz's ballroom, which is this beautiful underwater
Oh,
ballroom,
So good.
with like animal musicians,
Hmm.
which is
Love them.
I
Can't
lo-
wait for you to catch us up with the lore of the novel to this point.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, when we
that'll
get
be
there.
fun.
Yeah, I do love the inclusion of animals in service roles in here and
mm,
in the Emerald City. And again, they don't over comment on it. It's just
Yep.
like
Same as the
it's
musical. It's
yeah,
happening in the musical, and a lot of people miss
Very
it. There's
subtle.
something called the rat track, that a lot of like Bach covers want because that is typically the Bach cover is the rat
Yeah.
track on Broadway, and they play a rat at I think it's at the beginning of Shiz doing luggage,
Yep.
and there's also
Luggage, this
the
scene.
station scene. Yeah, the station scene. There's no animals in Emerald City, which I think is on purpose
yeah,
in the musical version.
yes,
The movie there are, but in the
Mm-hmm.
musical there are no animals. But at the train station, the service workers, again, there are some animals mixed in
yeah.
on Broadway in the stage show.
mm.
Very smart, very
Mm-hmm.
smart.
Yeah, very smart.
And but we get Bach and Nessa, and we see Bach see Glinda making out with Fiero, and just kind of be like, "All right, because I always read the musical as he's embarrassed to admit that he's not into Nessa when she's like, "Oh, it's because I'm in this chair," and so he lies. But in this, if they shot it like there was a decision where he's like, "You know what? Let me just
Hmm.
go for Nessa," you know?
This person who actually is taking interest in me.
Let me
Yeah.
try.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me
Yeah,
try. Let
why
me
not?
try it.
And
Yep.
same thing that you said, Glinda, earlier on with the
Yeah.
hat, just not thinking about the consequences, not really thinking this through at all. You're just in the moment. Like,
Mhm.
sure, why not?
You're just dancing through life.
Yeah.
Mindless and
Right.
careless. Yeah. Yeah, but we get this well, first Morrible is like, Glinda, for whatever reason, Alphabet threatened to quit unless I put you in sorcery studies. Here's a wand. I hate you. I don't believe in you. You don't have what it takes.
Hmm.
I'm going home. And so
We
right
die over that scene. We cannot get over it. Like the fact that Morrible just shows up at Ozfest. But
yeah.
I
So
am
weird.
having a better time grappling with it because I think Elphaba's panicked because her sister says, I need to repay her. And she's like, oh my God, okay. Like she's panicked to make that
Hmm.
happen. And then
Mhm.
she's about to say it, right? Like in that little scene,
Yeah.
like, hey, Glinda, listen. And then Glinda cuts her off and invites her to the party. Oh my God, she's being so nice to me now too. Like it's
Yeah.
double
Right.
the stakes of being like,
Yeah.
okay, I need to make this right now with Madame
Mhm.
Morrible. So now I'm kind of on board because Em and I criticize this a lot of like,
Yeah.
why is Morrible arriving in the middle of the night at the Ozdas ballroom? But I now can, if I put it together like that, the pressure that Elphaba feels
Yeah.
to reciprocate the kindness that she believes Glinda to be bestowing on her.
Hmm.
But then we get the horrible turn where she shows up in the hat, and it is
Her
a
little
bit of
face. Ugh.
it is a bit of a stretch because I'm like, you all wearing some crazy stuff.
We
Like,
can't handle
That's
that
what
either.
we've
I
said.
said
We're like,
Shen
She
Shen
has
looks
the most
fine.
normal outfit is Elphaba,
yeah,
honestly.
Shen
come
shut the fuck
on.
up.
Yeah, look in the
Yeah.
mirror. I don't know what you're wearing. It is giving why it's giving the why would a fellow want a girl like
Little
her?
stepsister.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, girl, get your life together. That's the hardest thing is to believe the appearance of everything because Oz is so eccentric. It's always
Yeah.
going to be
Right.
hard for us to get on board with that. And I think they
Yeah.
try. I think it's when she like does her like hand movements when she's dancing, that's where I think they make the strength of like everyone's just legitimately afraid of Elphaba
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
That's where
Yeah.
I make it make sense is everyone's already afraid of her. She's walking in with this hat. She's all in black. No one else is all in black. So I think
It's more that.
the fear mongering of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also like everyone talks about her like she's the weirdo. And so it's like,
Yes.
oh, I can't believe she showed up.
She could
You
have been
know?
wearing all blue and they've been like, look at that freaking blue. They would have
Yes.
made it work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing to reflect back on yourself. Like, when do you say something's weird and why? You know?
Yeah.
Like, why is
Leading
it
up
weird?
to it. Mhm.
It's a hat.
Yeah.
It's actually quite
It's
cute.
a hat.
Who would wear it?
Granny was a fan. So
Yeah.
Granny had style.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Love Granny.
We get
We
this
need a Granny spinoff. Anywho,
the Granny
continue on.
spinoff.
We do. The making
The origin
of, the
of Wicked, yeah, is the origin of the origin story. Yeah.
Oh God. Oh God.
But it is true though, like things that become iconic props. This is why I think what you were saying before is so real, that they don't harp on it in the way that a lot of other prequels can. It's just
Yeah.
ordinary objects that people find and make use. Like think about
Yeah.
your signature pieces. It was probably hanging up at a Target, and now it's your signature piece.
Yeah.
It's like little tiny things, or it was a gift from someone that you didn't see
Mhm.
coming. It's always that. And I
Mhm.
like how it doesn't have to be this big thing that means all this stuff. It's just the hat that she put on, right?
Yeah.
That's all it is.
But we do get, I think, the most powerful scene of the movie where she's dancing, everyone's making fun of her, and then Fiero's like, she doesn't give a twit what anyone thinks, and Galinda is like, of course she does, she just pretends she doesn't.
Yep.
And she joins her and she learns the dance, which Ariana didn't learn the dance ahead of
She
she
didn't
was
learn it.
learning it on screen. And we have this touching scene where Elphaba even starts to cry and Galinda's just like, it's okay. And they dance together. And now that Galinda's doing it, everyone's like, okay, I guess this dance kind of slays cultural
on board.
appropriation. Once a blonde does it.
I'm trying to think of like if there's something comparable in today's day that like everyone was like, ugh, at first, and now it's like, oh my God, we love it.
I feel like everything on
everything
Yeah.
you know is
online.
true.
Yeah, I mean, everything in Black culture.
Yeah.
Oh my
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like
Oh.
Elvis's whole career.
Ooh.
It's yeah, but it's this beautiful scene of bonding between them, and it's also people are pointing out how Nessa was like, "Oh, I can't watch," but she doesn't step in.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's been a big conversation on this, and Marissa Bodie actually, this broke my heart because I did not know this was happening. She talked about how people are using the language people are using around her, and she can
Yeah.
separate when it's a fictional character and
Yeah.
when it's then coming for the disability and all
Yep.
of this. Like there have been comments saying like to push Nessa out of her chair, like
Oh
things that are like,
gosh.
oh my gosh, why people? Why? And I
Yeah.
think this is so challenging for Marissa, who's playing Nessa, who one of her facts about her is that she uses a wheelchair, right? But
Yeah.
Nessa's also we've had many conversations, Em and I. She's a bit unlikable because she has to be to serve this plot. Like
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
is an unlikableness about her. She is not going to be the one who's going to defend her sister. It's
Mhm.
not ever who she was. And yes, that is a quality that we would love her to have in this moment. But then Alphaba wouldn't need a sister. She wouldn't need Glinda at all. Like, this whole
Exactly.
story doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
But
Yep.
the fact that people have been, I think, misusing language and being offensive and all of this to Marissa Bodie, I just want to point that out, that that's been happening.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
made a freaking TikTok about it because she
Oh,
was
wow.
that upset by it. And I also hope that the Wicked film also says something if their new actress making her debut in a film is
Yeah.
getting bullied. Like, I think we need to be Alphaba's Wicked film, please.
Yeah.
Say
Mhm.
by her.
Because and also the whole point of representation isn't just that you have people who are perfect and good in whatever group. You have
No.
characters that are nuanced. And
Yeah.
again, Wicked is about who's good and who's evil, and that Nessa isn't just like your sickly, kindly Victorian orphan in a wheelchair who's perfect, because
Yeah, like,
people
I think
with
of Heidi,
disabilities
yes,
are real
yeah.
Yeah.
people,
It's not Colin from The Secret Garden.
Yeah.
No, like, yes. And I think there's a lot of talk. We've had our Pod Squad chat has been really excellent in holding space for this and talking
Holding
about it.
space. Yeah.
Holding space. But
Yeah.
like, villains also typically like, there is a lot to look at when you think of villainous characters having something physically different about them,
Mhm.
and then what that evokes from people and how people don't even know they're doing it, but are using ableist language or saying something completely offensive about that person. It's so, just like racism is so deeply rooted in American culture, this is also deeply rooted, and we just
Yeah.
don't talk about it as much. There's really hasn't been a global platform for us to talk about disabilities at all.
Yeah, I
At
mean,
all.
Yeah.
the irony of it, to use that word more correctly, is that this movie is also exhibiting that people can be horrible to other people because of their differences, and that the people are doing that to this actor, and also using ableist language and bullying language toward her and to her character because of that disability. So it's like they're missing the point.
What
I
are we
know,
learning
They're
but
here?
missing the point of
that
the movie.
that
So
is
it's
it.
ironic, you
You
know.
just said it. We are always missing the point.
Yeah.
Yep. So great.
Great.
Yay,
Anyway.
continue on. We're missing the point
Continuing.
and trying to figure it out.
Great.
Missing the point. Let's talk about some comedy.
Yes,
Let's go
please.
there.
Please
Let's go
switch
there.
us to popular.
They have girl talk. She's like, my secret is I'm gonna marry Fiyero. He just doesn't know it yet. And she's like, I need a good secret. And she's like, what's this green bottle? And Elphaba's like, no, it was my mom's. And we get the scene where she's like, oh, well, my dad made my mom chew milk flowers while she was pregnant with Nessa, which led to Nessa's early birth, and he blames me. And Glenda's like, it wasn't your fault. It was the flowers. Not the dad's, if you notice, but she says, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's the flower's fault." But it's the first time anyone has ever told Elphaba something's not her fault. Uh,
Oh, the relief I feel in that moment for Alphaba is always immense. And the fact that they're like on the floor, merging their bedroom sides together,
Yeah.
there's something so
Mhm.
sweet about that.
Yeah.
it's such a sweet, funny scene with Popular. I mean, I
so
love
good.
that
Popular's
song.
perfect.
It's perfect.
Aptitude, it's not aptitude, it's the way you're viewed. That's my work mantra. You know, and
That's your AOL way message.
Yes.
Way message.
Yeah.
BRB, aptitude, what you're viewed.
Yeah.
No,
We
this
get
scene to me is like Academy Award winning. Like this
This
is
is
the
her
moment.
This is her nomination.
This is it. There is nothing I would change about this scene. It is perfect. I could watch it 100 times.
Yeah. No, it's just that it's so funny. Great use of the song. Yeah, we could talk about it forever. We get the can I call you Elfie, and Galinda gives Elphaba the flower that Fiyero gave her.
Yes, we're obsessed. We're obsessed with that.
And in the
Love triangle.
musical, it plays I'm Not That Girl because Elphaba is like, oh, this makeover doesn't fit me. But in the movie, it plays for good because it's about their
Yes.
bonding
They're
moment.
bonding.
Yes.
Already.
Good for you with that catch. I don't think I caught that. That's beautiful. But we
Thank
love the flower coming from Fiyero. Like,
Yeah.
oh wow, like Glinda's gonna have him first, but Alphaba's gonna end up with him, just like she does the
Woo!
flowers. Woo!
Ooh,
And they're all
Ooh!
interconnected.
And they're all
yeah,
interconnected.
Yeah.
Honestly, just turtle heart, thruple it out. That's what I
This is
say.
it.
yeah,
This is that moment.
That's the solution. Go back to Gregory Maguire's lore. Just have a good
Gregory
time.
had it right.
yeah.
Greg.
Take a glass blowing class. Yeah.
Ah.
We get Dillamon though being taken away. So we get like, okay, Alphaba's new, she has a new life, she's popular, but everything already comes crashing down. He loses his glasses, he's being
Oh,
dragged away.
Kills
Uh,
me.
Alphaba's like, are we just gonna sit here and let this happen? And we get a new professor just comes in with a lion cub in a cage, and he's like, this is great because it stops animals from talking. And Alphaba is having visions. She's ravening it out, and she's like, we can't let this happen. And she puts everyone to sleep with poppies, which was a great callback, except for
Mm.
Fiero. And they save the lion, they run off, they have a moment in the woods, as the other Steven would say. Uh,
Yes.
all the Stevens.
After some steamy chemistry, she sings "I'm Not That Girl," uh, which she did such a good job because it's kind of not my favorite of the. I find the love triangle storyline like the least interesting part of Wicked for me.
Mhm.
But
Heard,
Yeah,
she
sure.
heard.
she really sells this number.
Yeah.
It's so simple, and I love her, just her expressions. I love Cynthia's face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lythelin.
She goes for that riff right there. 18
I'm
notes
obsessed.
in one word.
I
I
mean,
love
her
her.
her eyes.
Yes.
Her eyes should get she 2 Oscar nominations for all of
Oscar
her and also
nom for
her
the eyes.
eyes.
I want her to be the first actress to win an Oscar twice for the same role. That's what I want for Cynthia.
Let's do it. She
Yeah,
deserves it.
let's make it
I,
happen.
who
Yeah.
else would get that honor? It's like gotta be her.
It should be.
Yeah.
Mm.
I love in this number that it's not just I'm not that girl, Fiero, Glinda, but like the whole friend group too. I love that we get that to where you
Yeah.
really feel just she feels like an outsider in all aspects of life.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so book. What's going on?
I can't wait.
That
tell us, Colin. I've had to do this on our pod,
Yes,
passing
Colin.
the torch to
EmKay,
you.
EmKay going through this is one of my greatest memories of our time in
I
the
was
Wicked
stone
book.
faced. I just said, "Here are the facts." So let's see.
Okay, so Alma Clutch. She hears a horrible noise. She's the
Oh,
she's the nanny. She's not nanny, we should clarify, but she's functionally
yes.
like the nanny to Galinda. She comes down to investigate, but she's unconscious now. She's has a horrible injury. No one knows what's going on with her. Bach finds everyone crying because Dillamond is being carried away. His neck was slit like a goat for slaughter. So everyone is upset. Morble's like, this is an accident. He got too close to his microscope. And everyone's like, sure, Jan. Like,
Sure, Jan. Oh my God.
Jan Morble. Jan Morble.
Jan
My
Morble.
boyfriend's, that's his phrase. He says "sure, Jan" all the time. So you allow it.
Yeah,
Like that's his thing.
it works in so many
It
situations.
really does.
Uh, and Galinda, this is where she's like, I'm gonna go by Glinda now because he called me Glinda, and it is much more of a
Yes.
serious thing. And Glinda
Mm.
has become a more serious person and less superficial.
It's not as performative in the book. She's trying to do something. It's not the best thing she could do, but it's like literally her really trying to be like, I
Mhm.
actually feel horrible.
And Bach is like, she's not as hot now. I don't know if I'm as into her.
Good clock.
Whoa.
Yeah,
He likes a mean girl? Is that what we're saying?
Or just, I don't know. Like, I
Or a
think he wanted her.
superficial girl?
I think he wanted Hallmark Glinda, Hallmark movie Glinda. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where she's just like
Mhm.
sweet and kind all the time, and he doesn't want to deal with the hard, which is interesting. We noted this too. We're like, Bach, we see you.
Yeah.
We see you
Mm.
wanting a cool girl,
hmm
Bach.
Bach is really interesting. I mean, the line, this would be whenever we talk about, but there's a line in the second half of the book, which we're not going to get to today, but where she says, like, Bach, what happened to you? And that is something I think of a lot with people I knew from growing up. But then you look back and then you're like, I see the seeds of where you are now. I see it now. And this
Yeah,
is that seed.
he's living a pretty comfortable life, like when we get to him at the later, and it's a life
Yeah.
that like doesn't really align to what he was doing in college, or
Hmm.
like what Elphaba had hoped, I think, for Bach
Yeah.
in college. And it does, I think this is begs mention again because this is getting lost now in all the canons.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Bach
Mhm.
is originally in the Wonderful Wizard of Oz book,
Yes.
1900. He is a mentioned tiny munchkin character mention. He takes Dorothy in like on
Mhm.
the first stop. You know how we said MGM is one
Yeah.
day? The bomb book is like 3 months of time. So there is
Yeah.
times and passages for Dorothy to sleep and rest that happens in the book.
And
And
to
Bach
eat. It's very
and eat.
important that she was eating.
Yes,
I
Yeah.
yes,
love that.
yes, taking care of herself, washing herself, all that is so important in the Baum books. And yeah, she stays with Bach and his family, and that's literally it. But Bach gives a lot of backstory, and that's honestly what happens in the Wicked book, that Bach is the first one to inform Elphaba down the line of like, hey, like I did meet Dorothy, please don't do anything to her. Like she's a sweet little girl. He does have the same role he had in the 1900s Baum book that
Yeah.
gets lost in the musical, lost in the sauce in the musical.
Yeah. Yeah. Bach, a very different role in
Yes.
the musical. They also, because Amma is out of commission, they send for Nanny, and Nanny comes with Nessa. She's a Jesus freak, but without the Jesus, she's just into the unnamed God. Very, and Glinda is like, she's very demanding. She's like kind of freakishly beautiful. Glinda doesn't know how she doesn't really like Nessa, but Glinda's also very privileged. It doesn't seem to relate to Elphaba, like as someone who has disability in their family is like, this is just what you need to do. You need to take care of them. And Glenda's like, well, is that really fair? Like, it's a really interesting conversation, especially with what we are talking about earlier. Because I don't know if I totally love what the book does with it, but also as someone who has disability in my family, it is like it isn't pretty and Hallmark. It is it's hard, in life, like everything in life, it's hard. But yeah, Nessa, very religious. Amma comes down sick with the disease that Glinda made up with the Bell syndrome, which is horrifying.
Crazy.
Horrifying.
Uh,
What a time.
That is
so-
one of my favorite parts of the book.
yeah.
How
Uh,
culpable our words can be if we really put something out there enough, how much we can make it a reality.
I do always say that, like, if you say it
Mhm.
enough, it'll start to happen. And yeah, so I think you said something when you were talking about the book that it would be a great HBO series, and I was like, yes, it's
This is a
very,
moment.
yeah.
Yeah, this is a
Uh,
moment.
so we get a new professor of biology. He's doing a weird experiment that makes antlers come alive. They attack the new late student, Fiero, who's a
There
prince
he
from the
is.
Vinkus. Winky is considered a slur. He has a bride back home. They were married as kids. He is canonically dark-skinned. Averick is racist about it. Crope and Tibbet introduce Fiero to the friend group. So they have like a circle of friends.
Our gays. Yeah, our
Yeah,
sweet
Crope and
gays.
Tibbet.
Yeah, we
Cat,
love
yeah.
them.
I'm
Crope,
sad they're not in the film.
yeah, I guess
They are. Secretly, they are.
They're there. They're there.
Yeah.
They're there.
We sense
They're an
their
unnamed
energy.
god. They're unnamed gods in the film.
So it's like Alphaba, Glinda, Nessa, Bach, Crope, Tivit, Averick, Firo, Shen, Epiphany, sometimes Milla. They're like this little group of friends. Morwell is asking them to pick their majors. Glinda studies sorcery, Alphaba life science, Nessa disapproves of sorcery. The new bio professor tries to harm the baby lion, and Alphaba is like, "You can't do this." And he's like, "Well, what's to show the difference between an animal, capital A, and a lowercase animal." But Alphaba speaking up causes everything to go into chaos, and two other girls help the lion escape. Nessa gets glass shoes from the father that he made kind of like iridescent with like skills from Turtle Heart. Alphaba does not get anything nice. Clutch dies. In her last moments, Glinda uses a spell to get basically confirmation that Madame Morble and Grammatic, her robot sidekick, killed Dillamond. But Glinda gets no forgiveness because she's trying to be like, I did this to you. And Clutch is like, Ducky, no, like, I love you. Like, just let me go. Uh,
Alma Clutch is beautiful and sad.
Sweet lady. Uh,
Yeah.
at her funeral, there's no cream. and everyone's really upset
The
by this.
No
the cream
cream, no
thing. That was
cream.
such a thing.
Yeah, they're like, how could you do this? But Morble pulls aside Nessa, Elphaba, and Glinda and
Big moment.
has a meeting. She puts them under a binding spell, so they can't say anything about it. But Elphaba is resisting. She even knocks over a teacup because Elphaba is like resisting the
She feels the
magic.
spell. Yeah.
Yeah. And she gives more lies to cover her ass about Dilmun's murder. But everyone clocks them as lies. But she's like, the wizard, he needs adepts to help run Oz. Elphaba, you're next in line to be eminent throp, top Munchkin. You could work in Munchkin land. Glinda in the Gillikin, with your social connections, and Nessa in Quadling country because of your missionary needs or missionary years. No need for the Vinkus. Like, who cares? Their population isn't important and we'll probably eradicate them anyway.
Crazy.
Glinda kind of it morphs in her mind into like this fantasy of marrying rich, or like it really messes with Nessa and Glinda, but Elphaba is able to shake it off. T-Swift style. They have a funeral after party, and this is the last time the friend group is together, but Elphaba is like, we gotta go to the Emerald City. Averick and Bach are like, let's go to the philosophy club.
Here we go.
Glinda's like, let's go party, but Elphaba's like, no. So they go to Emerald City. But meanwhile, Bach, Averick, Fiero, Crope Tibbet, Shen Shen, and Epiphany go to the philosophy club, run by Yackle, the witch from earlier, who
Who's
gave
She is.
huge in the books.
There
Yeah.
Like
she
huge
is.
in the Wicked books. Yes.
Gregory
Love
Maguire
Yackle.
loves a crone. He loves a crone.
Loves a
Yeah.
crone witch. I love a crone witch too. I'm like, bring them
Give us the
out.
crone witch.
Bring
Yeah.
them out. Let them speak.
Season of the Witch.
Let the
Uh,
crone speak.
yeah. Like,
Hashtag let
She's
the
seen
crone
more
speak.
than you.
yeah.
She's seen
Yeah.
more than you. Okay.
Uh, the Philosophy Club is full of diverse creatures and Ozians, but it is a sex club. It is this public, ritualized, drug-fueled sex club, and Tibbet ends up being pulled in to have sex with a lady and a tiger, a capital T tiger.
Capital
Oh.
T.
Yeah. So like a human in this world, which we have to
Yeah.
remind people of.
Yeah, like I think the
Mhm.
context is it's more like a fursona than like an animal from the zoo. Like,
Mm.
100%.
it's still uncomfy for many.
Uncomfy. It should be.
It
should
should be.
not.
It
It's
should
written
not-
to
yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Bach watches, but no one really references it again. But the Philosophy Club is like they're referencing the Cumbric Witch and the Time Dragon and the Unnamed God, and so it's like sex philosophy. Meanwhile,
And they're like innocents coming into this. Like they all feel very like somewhat innocent. And
Yeah.
then they're just not at the end of it. Like there's a big page that's turning.
Loss of
And
innocence.
the consensualness of all of this is a little muddy. That's
Unclear.
yeah.
there's
like
drugs in the
drugs. Yeah.
air.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot going on.
A lot
Mhm.
going on, but Alpha and Glinda, they go on a trip to the Emerald City.
They
It
say
is-
no thank you to
No,
this.
thank
We're
you.
moving on.
There's no train because the bankers from Shiz did not want a train to the Emerald City. They were afraid of the wizard. So they're on a carriage going past
Mhm.
poor, starving people. They share a bed. There was only one bed. They share a bed in the inn. And there's this intimacy between them. This Emerald City requires no green glasses. So I made a little list of when we have green glasses. The Wizard of Oz book and Wicked the Musical on stage.
That's it. Yeah.
Glasses. Wizard of Oz movie, Wicked book, Wicked movie, no green glasses.
Mhm.
But Glinda finds the Emerald City pompous, self-serious, and ugly, the architecture. She's like, this architecture is trash. She loves Shiz. She's like, this self-serious.
Look at how serious that is.
And the streets.
Can I add just one little
Yeah.
thing to that? The World's Fair that Emerald City is pretty heavily based off of the initial Emerald City, the 1891 one. All of that was false. Like it looked really good from far away, and then when you came closer, you realize this is just a
Interesting.
facade, which I think there is like a little eye wink at that in Gregory.
I see that.
Interesting.
I could see that. And the streets are full of poor and displaced people. It is not charming. And And eventually, after some bureaucracy, they're let in for 4 minutes to see the wizard. You only got 4 minutes to save the world.
4 minutes to save the world.
Yeah. And Glinda doesn't even know what's going on. Alfie has not looped her in, and he's dancing like a skeleton in a lightning storm. And Alphaba is like, okay, lots of water going on here. But she's like, here are Dr. Dillamond's findings. They show that what you're doing to the animals is bad. And he's like, well, I don't care. What makes you think I'm a good person? Immorality is like a useless word. Like you're girls, like you're just girls. This isn't your deal. Like just go back. Like why did Morable send you? And Alphaba's like, well, if you say you don't know what a moral is and there's no such thing as morality, then what's bad about me rebelling or killing you or assassinating you? And Glinda's like, I don't know what any of these things
Oh my
mean.
God,
Like,
get me out. Yes.
she's like, okay, like I'm not. I like to be excluded from this narrative. You know, she's like, let's not spin this. But he sends them off with like a quote from the Ozzyad and is like, be mindful to who you serve. And so they're going,
Ugh.
yeah, they're going back to Shiz, right? Glinda's got their seats ready. She's like, I'm holding a seat for my sister. But Alphaba gives her lunch to go and is like, I'm staying in the Emerald City. And Glinda is very much like, no, I need you. Like, we have to go back. We have to go back. And she says, I love this
Oh,
scene.
it kills me.
So she's like, hold out if you can, hold out my sweet, and kisses her. And I've heard different people interpret it different ways. I always read it as a kiss kiss, even if it wasn't like no tongue, but like a smooch.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
think sexuality is also so different, obviously. Like
Yeah.
I think have
Mhm.
laid that out pretty clearly. I do think that having a soulmate not be sexual completely, but having that feeling be there is so normal in
Yeah.
Oz.
Mm.
Yeah, I think to just be like, ooh, were they gay is like way too simple. I mean, they
Mhm.
could be. I think it's just they have this
Like it's
deep,
open.
yeah, they just have
Yeah.
a deep connection. And from what my understanding, that is with Glinda throughout the rest of the book series, that like this connection.
Yes.
And she thinks of them sharing a bed together and this kiss a lot. And she leaves Glinda in the carriage and she turns away, hiding her face because she's not going to cry because it's going to hurt her. But she doesn't want to hurt Glinda by Glinda seeing her not cry. But Glinda is
Mm.
still devastated that
It's
this,
so good. One of my
yeah,
favorite scenes.
Scene
When they say
is
goodbye, I literally
heartbreaking.
died. I was like, this is so much harder than the musical.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This again was the one part where I was like, because I re-listened to the audiobook like this summer and fall. And
Yeah.
but I was like, let me go back and read and like get the quote because this scene is really powerful.
So
Uh
powerful.
Agreed.
and so that's kind of everything that we're covering in the book up until now. They reference the Grimmery in the movie, which is referenced later in the book. So we'll talk about that probably more in part two of Wicked. But yes, that is the book. So very,
Crush.
very
Nice
different.
job.
Thank you.
Truly.
It's
This
it's a
is so nice.
it's a
Yeah.
great book. I would recommend reading it.
Yes.
But yes, it is a lot, as you can tell.
Mhm.
It's very different. And I appreciate them both for what they are.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so back to the movie, as we're kind of entering our kind of final act, we get Elphaba gets a balloon invite to the Emerald City. And we get
Mm.
the tidbit that Morble controls the weather. She
Mm-hmm.
says, "Oh, you mustn't get wet." And so we're off to the train, Bach and Nessa. The dad is doing the classic like "don't hurt my daughter" thing,
Yeah.
but he's also in charge of the government of Bach's homeland, so he's like,
True.
"Oh."
True,
The
true,
stakes are high for Bach.
true.
That is crazy,
Yikes.
actually, to think about. Like, you start dating someone who has
Oof.
such a high profile, and you are a mere common
Yeah,
person.
That's a lot.
he could ruin
Yeah.
your life and your family's
Yeah.
life. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Bach
Uh,
has that moment of realization there.
the consequences of his
Yeah.
dancing through life.
Yes.
And we get on the platform, like they're all saying goodbye to Elphaba. She's finally popular. Glinda's
Mhm.
makeover kind of worked a little bit, and this is where Glinda changes her name because Fiero keeps thinking about that day where they say the Lion Club, and she's like, "Oh, I do too. I'm changing my name to Glinda," and everyone's, "Oh my gosh, you're so great!" And
Such braverism.
Such
braverism
bravery.
Yeah.
from Bowen. I did love when earlier though, they told her to stop dancing with Elphaba, and she was like, no. And like she stood
Mhm.
up, she did something good just
Yeah.
because it was
They're
good.
feeling weird, I think, at this moment. There's
Yeah.
like their relationship's a little bit fractured. There is a moment before this train station scene where they're being the umbrella for Glinda.
Yeah.
So they're
Uh-huh.
back. Like, oh,
They're
they're back.
back.
Like, they're back. But you know what's so fun to realize about them? I think they question Glinda. Like, you could see that in their face when she changes her name, but they don't say it out loud.
Saying
And that's what
anything.
so many of us do when we see something sus, we go, okay.
Yeah.
I
Like,
guess
Yeah.
that's what's
sure.
happening.
Yeah, they have more power than me, I guess, in this situation. So I'll just
Right.
believe them.
Mm.
It is such a moment because they both are like, what is she doing? You could see that on their
Yeah.
face, but they're like, we have to be there for her because that's our whole identity is
Mhm.
Glinda's sidekicks.
Yeah.
They used to almost control her though, and now they
Now
are
it's
in
yeah,
sidekick.
sidekick,
You know?
totally.
Mhm.
Publicists, I think,
Pub-
as Bowen put it. Yeah,
Yes.
Glinda's publicists.
I love that. Yes.
So Alfie is like boarding the train, you know, she's having chemistry with Fiero, and Glinda's like, I don't care that I don't think he's perfect anymore. I still want him. And Alphaba's like, doesn't everyone else love you? And she's like, yeah, but I want him.
Mhm.
But she's like, Elfie, this is your moment. She gets on the train with the big mustache guy. They do the little hand
Mustache
wave
man.
thing.
Yeah, oh,
And
I
it's
love
so
it.
sweet. And she opens the book, the pamphlet, and it's like, I hope you get your heart's desire. And that's where she's like, Glinda, come with me. And time for one short day.
Whee! My
They
favorite part.
It's so fun. Oh my God.
Here
Last
we
one short
go.
day. It's like our last like true joy explosion before
Yeah.
things take
Good
the turn.
point.
Yeah.
Are gonna
Yep.
get dark. Yep.
Yeah, we get the Magical Wise Ones show where they're like, here's
love
the
it.
history of the Grimmery, and we see Adina and Kristen. Our theater went insane. Like the
Literally
one,
So
insane.
How could you
so
not?
I saw this with my boyfriend who knows nothing about the musical. And so when they came on, everyone was like, oh my God. And I leaned over and goes, you don't know who they are, but they're the ones who originated Elphaba and Glinda on Broadway. Okay, now we can focus. He was just like, oh, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Got it.
that was my experience seeing it in Virginia recently. No applause for Idina and Kristen. I mean, because they don't know who she is. They don't know who they are.
That's
Yeah.
so
That's fair.
fascinating.
My younger sister went with our grandma in 3D, and my sister's so funny. She videoed her, like a selfie view of her at that moment, like leaning over to grandma, being like, "Do you know who that is?" And my grandma's like, "No." But like grandma did know afterwards. Like she was like, "I know." My grandma's
Okay.
like
Yeah, of
seeing
course.
Kristen Chenoweth, but I think it was just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes a second, perhaps, if you're not like obsessed.
Exactly.
Well, I am
exactly.
glad that my life led up to this moment where I did know. You know what I'm
Where we
trying to say?
know. Thank you
Yeah,
so
like
much.
I'm so grateful that that's the journey I've been on.
That's my truth.
Yeah. And I for a second thought they were gonna do when they were talking about Magical Wise Ones. I'm like, are they gonna do like a Lurleen and Cumbresha reference?
Honestly, I think it is delicately that.
It could be. You could see it.
It could,
Like
okay, yeah.
they are the creators of Oz, which
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with. Like they basically are the creators of Wicked having this fire response, right, from
Mhm.
folks. So I'm like, I love it. I love the choice. I love it. I think it's just
Yep.
so perfect. It's such a beautiful honoring.
And they use it as much as it is like a point that like steps out, they do use it to actually build the story, which I appreciated.
It's
They're
serving
like,
two things.
the Grimmery's here, the prophecy of the wizard, he came down, he read Omaha, he's the
He
wizard.
can read it.
Yeah.
Yes.
He must be a wizard.
So they set it up, and then we get to, okay, time to see the wizard. We have these silent monkey guards, and they don't talk because there's a lot of, when the animals are caged, they don't speak. So you see Elphaba kind of clocking that.
Mhm.
And they see
You're
giant.
so right on that. I don't think we've talked about this enough, that like even the wizard later on will like make up like this is what Chistry wants to do, and Chistry like looks like no. Like there's
Yeah.
a face of like, no, that's not right, but doesn't say anything. And Elphaba's semi-clocking it, but we haven't brought up the fact that they probably have lost their speech. Like that is what's going on here.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
moment when they introduce Elphaba to Chistery.
Yeah,
She
that's
says,
it.
It's nice to meet you. And he doesn't say anything. She has a look on her face.
Yeah.
Like, she's like,
Uh-huh.
what's happening?
Odd, but like
What's
it
happening here?"
can't be happening here in Oz. was. Even though she's not
Yeah.
there yet.
You're not willing
Yeah.
to admit it yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like she's putting the pieces together. And honestly, it's impressive how quickly she can put the pieces together,
Yeah.
but it still
Yeah.
takes a moment.
Well, yeah, because she's here specifically to talk to him about helping the animals. And so, yeah, now she's having this resistance of like, well, why would these animals not be talking here in the Emerald City with the wizard
Yeah.
if he can help them? So, yeah.
We get Jeff Goldblum wizard. He's in a floating head, but he comes out.
There
He's
he
like,
is.
"Oh, Alphaba and +1. Okay." Uh
Belinda.
Glinda.
Belinda.
Glinda. He's like, "Here's my model of Oz. Do you want to pick a road color? We get yellow. It just says road to me."
So good.
Uh
I love it. I love it. I love it. I
uh
love it.
and he's like, "Oh, here's you in the palace. This could be your home. But what's your heart's desire to not be green? You know, the model doesn't have to be green." And she's like, "My heart's desire is for you to help the animals." So she had sung in Wizard and I, obviously, I want to be D green, but she's like, "No, I want the help for the animals." And I don't remember if that was as explicit in the musical, but it's
No.
very explicit here.
Very
Yeah.
explicit. And I would say, I'm like, what is he gonna do if she wants to not be green? Like he can't
How
do anything about
right.
that.
How's
He's
he gonna
Like
gonna
he's
give
just
her a
gonna
mask.
tap, like yeah, like a tap dance around that. I was like, how's he gonna tap
glasses?
dance that? Like yeah, I wonder how he would have dealt with that. And then he was
Yeah.
excited to hear the animal answer, which I don't think Morrible and him thought about enough. That she like you're clearly picking the wrong person.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
think
It's interesting. I don't know what his angle is here. Like I'm still lost in that.
he's an improver. He's figuring it
Yeah.
out. He's like, "Well, that's
Yeah,
what I
That's
very
what
love,
the vibe we get. Yeah.
making people happy. I'm a
Mhm.
sentimental
his
man."
inflections are so funny to me when he's
Yeah.
like the Oz of tomorrow. Like everything has this like, ooh, I don't know where I'm going.
Yeah.
It's like slightly awkward, but as we said, that's how it should be. That's kind of his
Yeah.
vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And then Morrible shows up. She's like, "Okay, here's the Grimmery. This is your chance to show that you can do magic. Help an animal, because Shistery, as the wizard says, he's watching the birds fly, like
Dumb.
Princess
Yeah.
Jasmine. He wants to fly away." And so she's reading the spell. I love the design of the book and how, as she reads the
Oh,
spell,
so cool.
And the,
uh,
the book just opens for her,
Yeah.
and it's just like it's inviting her.
and Chistru begins to violently grow wings. And
Intense.
Yeah.
and she's like, "Oh, he's in pain. We have to stop it." And there's no one doing the spell of the Grimmery. And they hear all the other monkeys and they realize they're all in pain and they've all transformed. And
Horrifying.
Morrible and the wizard are like, "Perfect, this is what we want. Spies for seditious animal behavior." And Alphaba is like, "Hold the
Whoa, wait a
phone.
second.
You just made me hurt a bunch of people and now you need spies?" And she's like, "Okay, calm down." And he's like, "Well, to bring people together, you need a common enemy. This is what I
Mm,
learned from where I'm from, Earth, where we're all from, and we see that happen all the time."
yeah.
And he's like, "But you could come live here in the palace, and you could, if your friend could be here too, if that makes you happy." And she's like, "You need me because you don't have any real power. You can't read this book. You're a fraud." And she takes the Grimmery. And I love how Alphaba and Dorothy have such a similar experience where they're instantly like, "You're a fraud who wants to hurt people." And so she runs off, and this is where Morble says to Glinda, "If you want to do some good, get your friend and talk some sense into her." And she sends the monkeys after them. We get this chase scene with the monkeys attacking them. Glinda's like, "Elfie, just hear them out." The guards are coming after them. They're chasing the balloon up. We get the gray line, "Sir, give me my leg." Uh,
Give me my leg.
I
Be
actually,
my leg.
It's so good.
I feel like Glinda is undecided at this point.
I
I know,
think so too. I think so. I don't think she knows where it's going, and she is. I think what is exciting about her is that she could fight for herself. She could fight for
yeah,
herself. She's good at sports. Okay,
yeah.
she's
Got
got this.
spots.
She's good. She's got this. Like she can
Yeah.
hang in there on her own, which I think is nice to see.
Yeah, I think because there's again a lot of discussion about this moment, and I think they did a good job of being like, Glinda is unsure. She's the undecided voter in this allegory, and
Yes.
Alphaba knows, but her instinct is to go after Alphaba, but there's like her heart instinct and her head instinct, which is to stay.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Yeah.
we get defying gravity. Alphaba is casting the spell to try
Mm.
and fly. And she's like, "Where are your wings?" But the broom flies, and
Favorite moment. Oh,
you
so
know,
good.
we get her. She's like, "Well, that's I don't want that anymore." Like, because Glinda's like, "You can go back." I mean, well, we all held space for these lyrics, you
We
know.
have held space and we
My
will
yeah.
continue.
Yeah, we'll continue to hold space.
If that's love, much too high a cost. Uh, but she's like, Glinda, come with me. Like we could do this together. And Glinda seems to consider, and she's like, oh, Elfa, you're shaking. And she gets a cloak and covers her. While Morrible is making the announcement, she's a wicked witch. Her appearance reflects it. She's stolen the Grimmery. She's hurt these monkeys. The guards come to get them, and they grab Glinda. And Elphaba's like, it's me. I'm the one who wants to go to the Four Seasons Orlando. It's me. Uh, it's become such a meme of the "it's me," but it's such a powerful
Oh,
moment. Like I did have chills in this
Same.
whole sequence.
The
Mhm.
jump, the
the
jump, the
jump
jump, the
is
Yep.
jump.
great. I really
And
like the
I
jump.
don't think I realized this until like my last showing of seeing this. We get Morrible's announcement in Emerald City, and then there's like it's a replay, word for word, the
Yeah,
exact announcement.
It's
Like I didn't realize
Shiz.
it's the same thing. It's just being
Yeah.
replayed for them,
Yep.
yeah.
which I,
Broadcast.
I thought it was a new. I don't know why in my head I had it as like, oh, she's saying something new, but no, it's exact same thing she said. So it's like, oh, interesting. I didn't clock that.
Yeah, like the emergency
Misinformation.
broadcast came
Yeah,
on at the university. Yeah.
Yeah, because Shiz is panicking, Firo's leaving, Nessa is listening. It looks like their dad is dying of a heart attack.
by shock.
Yeah, go fuck
Yeah.
yourself. Sorry.
Honestly,
Bye.
bad dad.
Don't let
He's
the
a
door hit you
villain.
on your way out.
He's a villain.
Yeah, and she sees her child self as she's falling, and she
Oh,
embraces herself, which lets her
wow.
soar.
Ugh,
And we get
it's so
this.
good.
We get the,
Crying.
because I've been, my new icebreaker, fun fact about me, nobody in all of Oz, no wizard that there is or was, is ever going to bring me down. That's just
That's a
fun
fun
fact about
fact.
me. But
Ah.
we see as she's having this moment and embracing her power and flying in a way that movies can do even more powerfully than stage, as much as powerful as that stage moment is, right? It's just different mediums, different
Mhm.
celebrations. And we have Morble concocting her plan. And I think we hear her saying she's green and it reflects her ugliness, her evilness. And she's looking at Glinda and clocking. Glinda's beautiful. Glinda, if we're creating evil, evil and good are always like opposites of each other. There's this beautiful young girl in front of me who's scared and unsure, and instantly she grabs her,
Good point.
pulls her
Mhm.
in.
The visual of it all. Yeah. Like what does good look like? What does evil look like? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she embraces her, right? Like she like
It's
hugs
full.
Glinda.
And
And
she's never done that before. She's always been
No.
like, ugh, Glinda.
And it's Glinda's goal, like
Great.
pretty much the whole film is just to have approval from
yes.
Morrible. And I think
Oh,
in her head, as we all do this in all of our things, once I get this, my life will be complete. That's it. That's the
Yeah.
right.
step. It's totally Glinda's. If I
Yeah.
if I have Morrible on my side, I'm good.
Yep.
That moment shakes me because knowing what happens in Act Two and like the whole thank goodness of it
Hmm.
all, I love that we get that moment in the film.
And
It's
I'm not
scary.
convinced that Morrible isn't doing more than we see. Like she has this big like hand
Yeah.
Hmm.
moment, and I'm like,
Mm.
are she controlling these soldiers? Because they really just threw
Mm.
themselves. I think some of them
Mind
died.
control.
I think some of them died.
They
They
might
had to
Yeah.
have.
have. They had to have in that fire
Yeah.
Yeah.
moment. Like, and also all the
Yeah.
electricity being blown out. I'm sure someone was in the wrong spot there. So,
Yeah.
but like, I think a lot of them are being, I don't know. I'm wondering if Morrible has more power than we even know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but Alphaba shocks everyone, turning the whole city off,
Shuts it down.
Yeah.
shuts it down. She shuts down the systems of power, the
Woo.
industrial heart of Oz. Glinda's, I hope you're happy as she's taken away, and Alphaba is soaring off into her new life as the Wicked Witch of the West.
Mm,
What a
what an
movie.
ending. What a film.
Are,
Wow.
are people born wicked, or do they have wickedness thrust upon them? We're still learning.
Ugh.
Now, I guess our big question that we always ask, it's a double-edged question. So was that your fantasy? So it is, do you like the movie? And also, is this a story you'd want to live out?
Oh.
So it's a tough one. So Hannah, was that your fantasy?
So yes, this was my fantasy and that I loved the movie. So I don't know if we even really talked about it, but I have never seen the stage musical and I only know basically first
Ah.
act songs. So this is really my
This is your
purview
fantasy.
of
Yes.
the musical. So I'm like, what do you mean? Bad stuff happens? No, no, this is where the bad stuff stops and then that's it, right?
The end.
So like I know like little sprinklings of what happened. And then I think last time I said that like I would want to hang out in Oz.
Mhm.
I think I would want to go to Shiz. It seems like a fun time. However, the political turmoil, I mean, it's
A
a
little too
little
real.
reflective
A little
on
too
what's
real.
going on. So maybe 70 years before this, I'll hang out in Oz, go to Shiz. But yeah, so yes, it was my fantasy.
Ooh.
Wow.
So
I love it.
MK, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I love what you said. I mean, to answer the first part, loved the film.
Shocker.
I
Yeah.
can't wait to see it again. Again, yeah, I would love to hang out in Oz. That's a fantasy of mine, and I feel like so much of this, like, out of anyone, I'd want to be Idina and Kristen's character, but no one else. There's too much happening. There's too much conflict, and I don't want to be in the middle of all of this.
Yeah.
I personally, it's not my fantasy to actually live out. If anything, I'm gonna be like Bowen Yang's character, someone on the side.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think I want to take all of this on. But living in it for 3 hours, that is a fantasy.
Yes, living in it as a storyteller. Yes.
Love that.
Please. But like
Yeah.
actually living in it, I don't think I would want to either. Like I would, yes, would love to visit this Oz, but I think even Shiz, I don't want to go there knowing what they're covering up. Like
True.
I don't want to go there
Yeah.
knowing.
Yeah.
I think it's a little hard to answer because if you do know what you know, this Oz is a little bit of a lie. It's a very big American dream lie
It's
where it's like,
corrupt.
yeah, like there's stuff underneath. There's things that are not being shown.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tricky.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely loved this movie. So it definitely was my fantasy to live it out. I'm gonna say yes, in that yes, I want to go to Shiz, but if I basically dealing with similar issues that we're dealing with here, but now maybe I have magic, maybe I could feel like I can make a bigger splash. I don't know. Maybe Jonathan Bailey is there. Okay,
Yeah, those are good things.
I'll live that out.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Maybe I can be Glinda's friend who's like, don't work with the wizard. Like, we connect with Elphaba. She was cool.
She
Like,
was cool.
like, yeah, just come back to Shiz. Like, stop talking to Morrible.
Didn't we just like Alphaba? Why are we hating her again?
Yeah. Come on,
Yeah.
girl.
I'm lost. I'm
Like, I can't
lost.
keep
I've lost the
track.
thread.
Yeah. That's that's what I would do.
Love that.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming and for your time and for unpacking this huge ground shaking 2024 movie.
Thanks for having us. I mean, we
Yeah.
love talking about Wicked anytime, and I feel like with each conversation I learn more and I think about
Same.
moments in new ways. So I'm excited to see it again tonight. Thanks for having us.
Yes, I'm with MK. Like, I think also this being the holiday times, I think people get really nostalgic for Oz and like reconnecting back to that childhood joy if they got to experience whatever Oz property as a kid, whether it be Return to Oz, MGM, whatever. I think there's just such a cool thing that's happening in this moment, and it's so fun to like just see like there's Oz history now that can kind of hold us in these moments, and to connect it to the stuff going on today is always like I think that's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
It's like why we need art is so we can actually have conversations about the stuff that no one wants to talk about. So grateful to you both,
Yeah.
and truly
Yeah.
getting my brain. I want to read Wicked again. Like that's
Yeah.
where
I
I'm
know.
at.
I
I was
might
like, I
have
need to
it
pick up Wicked again. I have 14 copies behind me that I could just
Let's
open.
do it.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, this movie has so many layers, so much to like. I'm just having so many discussions with people in my life about good and evil and all that. But before we go, where can the people find you on Down the Yellow Brick Pod and like tell us about your show?
Yeah. Listeners, if you would like to listen, you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. We are Down the Yellow Brick Pod. We have a backlog of 4 years, 4 seasons. We're in our 5th season as of this recording. So come on down and listen. We are on Patreon. We are also on Instagram at Down the Yellow Brick Pod. And I mean, mostly this season has been mostly focused on Wicked, the film. In the past, we've covered Wicked the musical, we've covered The Wiz, we've covered the original Baum books, musical adaptations. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
Return to
all
Oz.
of Gregory Maguire's books we've
All of
gotten
Gregory
through
Maguire's
for the
books.
Wicked series, but there's more to
Yes.
come. We still haven't done. He has a whole other Wicked series that many people are like, "What?" The Another Day series he has, which he takes Elphaba's granddaughter as she's the lead of that. So there's more to come, which is very exciting.
Yes.
We'll be doing part 1 next season, like scene by scene, which is very
Scene by
exciting.
scene,
Awesome.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're an Oz fan, you got to check out this show. I love your show. So definitely
you.
recommend it to our
Thank you
listeners.
guys. We're so happy to be connected to you guys. This has been so much fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Best part of podcasting, the pod fam.
Yes, very true.
Pod
very true.
fam, we're here.
And then
All
Hannah, where can people find us?
So, listeners, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok. We are at Not My Fantasy Pod. If you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, give us that 5-star review. Let us know in your comment what you love about the pod. If you're on YouTube, leave us a comment and let us know what you loved about this movie. Did you get the chills? Pretty much the entire film.
And
what
are
was your
people
favorite
born
part?
wicked? Yes. What was
Yes,
your favorite
answer
part?
that question.
Answer that
Answer that
question for
question
us.
in 20 characters or less.
Yeah.
Exactly.
one word.
But yeah, so we will see you guys next episode. We're doing Moana 2.
Also,
Boogaloo.
a movie. Yes.
Speaking a motion picture.
Yes.
Love.
Well,
But yeah.
thank you. And keep holding space for those lyrics, everybody.
Bye, listeners.
Holding space.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Holding space.